Sphere, the wise Alando.
Welcome back to Mages and Murderdads, the best show dedicated to the Baldur's Gate franchise and beyond. I'm Cameron, and I play Ticklevar the Sorcerer.
And I'm Danny, and I play Balthazar, the Barbarian.
This is episode 35, and today we're just doing some wrap-up.
We're doing stuff that we've been procrastinating on. We've had it in the back of our minds the whole time that we need to do these things, and we were looking for an episode to slot them in. And I think for a while we were thinking, oh, maybe 32 is going to be that episode. And I think before that we were thinking maybe 29. Maybe 29 we can like snip that in. But no, it's 35. 35 is the miscellaneous episode.
It is. It's all the stuff that needs to get done that you don't want to do. It's the junk drawer. Of Mages and Murderdads.
Got some twist ties in there.
Yeah, but for like garbage bags that don't have the strings in them.
Exactly. We got we got 3 AA batteries, like loose, not in a package.
And they're all half charged.
Yes.
There's like light bulbs, the very small light bulbs for night lights. But you know what? We don't own any night lights.
No. And one of them doesn't work, but we don't know which one. We can't remember.
And we don't have a thing to test it with.
Exactly.
If you like this episode so far, you can hit the like button. You can subscribe to us here on YouTube, of course, if you haven't already. You can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. And you can go comment on a number of different platforms. And you can hang out in our Discord, where we have rousing discussions about tabletop gaming.
And like
a number of
pantheons in gaming.
Yeah. There's a good bi-weekly chat about like how gods and goddesses and pantheons in general function in tabletop games. So, a real rousing time. We talk about Dark Souls a lot.
Had to make a new Dark Souls like sub-forum or subgroup or sub-channel.
A little slice of the community there. You can also support the show on Patreon. We're still shooting for our next big goal, which you can come help with that. But also, for $3 a month, I want to say, you can get a newsletter and an additional podcast that we record that's chock full of good stuff if you like Mages and Murderdads, so you'll probably like it.
We're recording that right after this.
We are. We're going to be doing that. It's going to have all kinds of additional ideas in it. So, Danny, what did we do during the last episode?
So we have really completed a lot of this game in the last episode. We basically stopped right before we end up going to Sundelesanar. Help me out with the pronunciation there.
Soldenesalar? I really don't know.
But yeah, we murked Bodhi. That's basically what happened. And according to my screen, she's the toughest enemy I've ever defeated, and Balthazar vehemently disagrees with that assessment.
It was the merchant beside your storage table.
Rip.
Rip, because that got you in the heart.
You're gonna have to cut to that slow motion, black and white.
I'm not gonna do that.
You're not gonna do that?
I'm not gonna.
I'm calling it out right here. Here it goes.
Back and to his left.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
But well, so we did that in order to get the Rin Lanthorn, which will reveal Soldenesalar to us, so we can then go kill Irenicus. That guy who, from the very beginning of Siege of Dragonspear, was giving us crap. Finally, we can go mess up his dinner plans.
Yeah.
Or something. And shout out to Cabbage Squirrel, a frequent commenter over on the Reddit when this goes up, who for the last episode gave us a very good bit of info about this Rin Lanthorn thing and what's up with hiding Soldenesalar and all of that stuff. So shout out, thank you so much for that info.
It's very complicated and mysterious.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, does not matter at all.
Well, a wizard did it.
Literally, well, hey, let's be fair. An elf did it.
Which in like first edition is the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, they have a genetic propensity toward wizardry.
So yeah, that's basically where we left it, and then so right on the cusp of us dispelling the illusions necessary to fully infiltrate Sundalesenar, we decide, hey, we got this laundry list burning a hole in our pocket. Let's go check off some boxes. So what kind of boxes did you check this episode?
So yeah, let me give you just a table of contents here at the top. Number 1, gotta kill dragons.
Ooh.
Just we got to get there, right? We got to do the work of killing a dragon or two. Number 2, killing Kangaxx. We'll talk about Kangaxx when we get there, but that was something that I had not done that I thought might be important to do. Number 3, the rogues gallery of evil people that you told me about way back. I don't even know if it's in an episode.
It's also, if you look way back when we're doing the Bridge District, there is one of our faithful YouTube commenters does mention the Twisted Rune. And they're like, hey, you guys gonna do that? Well, look, here we are.
Well, it's something you did quite a long time ago, and I think I might have cut it out of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few of these things, and I've just kind of told Kunzman, hey, leave that footage out. We'll cover that later.
And here we are doing that. And then we did our, what are they called?
Stronghold quests.
There we go. Stronghold quests. So in this game, in case you haven't been following along, in case you've forgotten, because it did happen probably 10 episodes ago, each class or kind of cluster of classes has a location in the game that they can unlock that they then kind of get to rule over and do some kind of regional level hero ruling. And you get to make choices and decisions about other people's lives for once. Very, very important for Ticklevar. And that's what these quests are all about. Is you're trying to be like a middle manager.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So we both did those.
Yeah, so that's kind of like our writ large what we're doing this episode, but this is the miscellaneous episode. This might be a little bit more improvisational than other episodes. Who knows what hijinks we're going to get up to when we're talking about these events.
Yeah, because every other episode is very, I don't know if you can tell us, but very, very scripted.
Yeah, word for word. We have like about a 3-hour meeting before each episode where we drill down and talk about grammar, really.
Yeah, I mean, we do a table read the week before, just to make sure everything flows correctly. And sometimes it doesn't. You got to do a full rewrite. You got to get the team back together. That's me, Danny, Spud, the Beaver, Hammerhand,
and of course we couldn't do it without Charlotte, who basically organizes the whole table read.
Yeah, Risky Jeff. Hambone, of course. You can't write anything that's funny without Hambone in there.
And these are your Patreon dollars at work.
Yeah, Two Shoes. I just want to make sure we get all the credits out there before we get going. But yeah, so this is a little bit more free flowing. But in a way that I think is fun. So way back in the day,
so long ago,
you killed the Shadow Dragon.
A being made out of shadow that happened to be, molded into a dragon shape.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Like, what is the Shadow Dragon? Is it a dragon first or a shadow first?
A being made of shadow in the shape of a dragon, but there's probably more specific lore to it, I guess, right? There's got to be.
There is. So I'm looking at it now. Shadow dragons were evil true dragons that were either native to the Shadowfell or transformed by years spent there. Physically,
that's very different.
Yeah.
that either or is big.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a... So we're talking about... I mean, but it does kind of go to show, look, immigrant or not, native-born or not, you spend enough time in Germany, you become German. You spend enough time in Shadowfell, you become a shadow dragon, right?
Well,
What if it also was reversed? Like, you spend enough time in Germany, you become a shadow dragon.
I think that might be the case. I don't know. Do you know any German people
that aren't insubstantial and breathe shadow itself? No.
Yeah. See, that's the problem, right? That might be their main export, though. And we just don't know. So way back when we did this content proper, you killed the shadow dragon.
Correct.
And I tried to kill the shadow dragon. And the shadow dragon is in the Umar Hills. It's in kind of the Forgotten Temple that's north of there that we kind of found out was a temple to Aminator. It was also the god that we found under the temple district in Athkatla. Hopefully it's all coming back in a wonderful mosaic of emotions and feelings about the Forgotten Realms. But I tried to kill that dragon way back then.
How'd that go?
I didn't do it. It didn't go. It didn't go at all.
So when you first tried it, what was the issue?
I died.
Yeah, but how? Like, what was getting you?
Oh,
the fear,
I just
the crowd control, the pure amount of damage.
I just don't think I believed in myself enough.
The Peter Pan problem.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think literally I just couldn't hit it. I don't think I had, certainly my spells weren't high enough, and I didn't have the ability to do things like remove protection from magical weapons, stuff like that. So, which was critical to winning this time, right?
Interesting.
So it seems like when you did it, it was probably just you hacking away at this dragon until it died.
Yeah, that would have been it. And the protection from magical weapons wouldn't have helped, because I think if you got a +3 or a +4 weapon, like there's a threshold where you can hit it no matter what.
It's not +4 because I had +4 weapons that were not hitting it.
Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's +5.
Well, Balthazar's never had a +5 weapon, and he murked this shadow dragon.
I think you just lived through it. If I recall the conversation, I think that you just kind of tanked your way through it.
Oh, so the protection from magical weapons ran out, basically.
Yeah.
And then after it ran out, I murked it.
I believe so. I believe that's how the conversation went down.
Balthazar was just tough enough to get the crap beat out of him for the duration of protection from magical weapons.
So,
interesting.
I had put when you meet this dragon the first time, you have a little orb that is an anti-shadow dragon orb, so it won't just kill you on sight, right? Mm-hmm. I'd left that orb on my table of good stuff.
I was about to, the table in front of you, like your computer table?
No, the table of good stuff in Athkatla.
Ah, yes.
And so, I didn't have it when I showed up this time. And all these levels later, all this time later, months later, this thing is still eating me alive. Okay. Annihilating me. I cannot belabor this enough. So I have to go all the way back to Athkatla. I got to go to that table.
Got to go to Joaquin's Promenade. You got that merchant still looking over the table.
He's
alive in your universe.
Exactly. And so I got to go there, and I'm digging through the thing. I finally find it. I go back, and it still takes forever. Also, by the way, in my journeys back and forth, I kept encountering a group of people that said they were going to kidnap me, and then they all turned into my party. They shape-shifted, and I just ran away from them every time.
What?
Yeah, so I would really love a commenter or someone who listens to the show to explain what that was about.
I mean, it may be that you just needed to kill those people in order to determine what it was about, right?
They actually turned into my party. It was just going to take a long time. So I just walked away. I was not into this. This was not part of my plan for this episode.
You'd have to rock, paper, scissors, and they're like, "Oh, so I've got to put X so and so on the evil version of Vaconia, or I guess the good version of Vaconia, and I got to put somebody else on the evil version of Mazzy." Like, it would be a real travail.
Yes, and I didn't want to do that. And so I didn't. So someone let me know what the hell is going on with that. But so I finally get to the dragon. If you remember, dear listeners, my predominant strategy for solving fights in this game has been summoning a bunch of monsters to do the fight for me. That's how, and now I've graduated up to a whole new level of doing that. I summon flying swords that do the fight for me.
Now, who in your party can summon a thing?
Who can't summon a thing?
Yeah, who can't then?
Mazzy.
Mazzy can't do it.
That's it.
That's everyone else can summon a thing?
Everyone else can summon.
So what's your go-to summons for like each party member?
I like to mix up so probably at this stage the optimal summoning strategy is just 5 Mordecaian swords. And I cast haste on them and I let them go. That's optimal. But generally what I like to do is I like to do 1 or 2 giant skeletons from Viconia. I like to do a couple Mordecaian swords and then a fire elemental from Jaheira. Right, gives you a lot of different stuff going on. The swords attack more, but they hit a little bit less hard. The elemental hits really hard. It hits for like 35 hit points at a whack. And,
so with the diverse portfolio, you get like the maybe really good situation where the enemies are attacking the swords, which are more difficult to hit, and the fire elementals are wailing on them.
Yeah. You just get a good spread. And then for the second wave, that could be like a couple ogres. It could be a dryad. I like to summon a dryad because they have their own spells. I got like a whole thing going on now. Now with Simulacrum, I can just summon another Ticklevar.
You're playing a different game than I am.
Yeah, it's a different kind of experience, but all of that is to be said, or I say all of that to say that doesn't work for dragons.
Oh,
because
no.
They have Death Spell.
So what do you mean by Death Spell?
It's literally called Death Spell. It just de-summons all summons.
So that's basically, if you have a bunch of summons, that's the first thing the dragon does.
Exactly. They basically take a turn off to just annihilate all your dudes. And so that's a real problem when that's your predominant strategy. So I had to like really do this for real. And it required a lot of like figuring out who was good at what. And I ended up doing it by having basically like Ticklevar and a Simulacrum of Ticklevar, which doesn't get hit by Death Spell, thankfully, on like one side of a triangle with the dragon in the middle of this triangle. So I got Ticklevar and then my mage, the wild mage. I don't know why I can't think of her name. So they're together. And then I've got Imowin and Mazzy with +3 arrows on one side of a triangle. And then I've got Jaheira and Viconia just melee wailing on another side. Yeah. And then we just kind of executed. It was a real, it took a long time. It took probably like 45 minutes.
45 minutes? Like, so with pauses, with like readjustments, that kind of stuff?
No, of just starting over and over again.
I see.
And let me tell you, this is the real payoff for this belabored story about killing a dragon. So when I did it, Viconia died every single time for all of these, by the way. Like, everything I tried to kill in this episode, Viconia died and had to be resurrected later. But Viconia dies, and when Viconia dies, I can see in her like little character portrait that her hit points are -10 out of 0. And that seems bad. That seems really bad, right?
Sure. I mean, not preferable.
She's not on the screen anywhere. Her items are on the ground, and so I defeat the Shadow Dragon.
But her character portrait's still on the right-hand side, right?
Character portrait is still there. So I summon her, or I click on, I get Jaheira to do resurrection. I resurrect Viconia. She comes back, and she is a spinning chunk of like human gib of meat. And I swear to God, I'm going to put in the video. So she can't move, and her strength is like 4. And I don't know how that's even possible. I don't know how this Gib, can have a strength of anything at all.
Well, wait, what level? Because I know that in old school D&D, weren't there some resurrection spells where there was a chance you could be resurrected, but not in your original form?
That's not going on in the
But
Baldur's
you know
Gate
what
games.
I'm talking about,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it could go wrong.
Yeah.
There's like a fail chance. Mm-hmm. If only that was what was supposed to be happening here. Yeah, so she's just like literally a spinning chunk of meat hovering in the air.
Like a shank. Or
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. And I can't pick anything up and I can't move. And her stats are like 4 strength, 2 wisdom, 0 charisma. Like all of her stats are severely affected. And I can't figure it out. Like she got hit so hard that the game forgot what she was supposed to look like and what her stats were supposed to be. Yeah.
Oh,
So
no.
I could not figure out a way to fix it. And so I had to reload a save and then fight the dragon again.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. It was a real bummer.
Yeah. So that was dragon number 1.
Yeah. Well, so dragon number 2 is actually Furkrag, the big red dragon
Yes.
at the bottom of the Wind Spear Hills.
The dragon that our mentor and stepfather, Gorion, owned in his young adventuring career.
And owned so furiously that dragon never forgot about it. Mm-hmm. Ever.
Gorion was yelling, "Demolish thyself, neophyte!"
Do you think that's what Gorion was doing?
Yeah.
Ooh. No one respects you for your accomplishments, dragon. So yeah, he owned him so hard that 30 years later, this dragon got revenge on me. And much easier than the Shadow Dragon. It was not spitting shadow itself.
Interesting. Fearkrag's easier.
Yeah, I found Fearkrag a lot easier. He never cast like protection from magical weapons or anything on himself, so really it was just like about DPSing him down.
The classic DPS race.
Yeah, and so I had Mazzy firing arrows, but mostly I just had everyone casting magic missile at him. And I would say probably 16 magic missile instances were cast at Furkrag.
Did anybody go down in the fight?
Yeah, so once again, a party member was hit so hard that they were annihilated by the game. Yeah, so Mazzy got hit as Furkrag is dying. Like the last hit that Furkrag gets off. And she gets hit, and she doesn't like gib or anything, so she doesn't explode into pieces, but she just disappears. And her portrait is no longer there.
Ooh.
Her items are on the ground, but she's just gone.
It may have been a critical hit.
Well, so I looked through the like combat log. Nothing in there. It does. I'm pretty sure it didn't even say she died.
Dear Lord.
Which is the weird thing. Like she got hit clearly.
Fearkrag's gained access to the console commands. Delete Mazzy.
No, it's Furkrag and Vecna just running around
Oh, snap.
in there.
Well, that's
But yeah.
disturbing.
Yeah, it was really weird. So my party and the way that we fight and play this game is not conducive to dragons. Yeah. So those are my dragon stories.
Well, yeah, and it makes sense. You probably have no desire to go kill the silver dragon.
I don't know. I didn't know if I could even go back and do that, but yeah, I don't. I mean, they were nice to me.
Sure.
She was nice to me.
Other than her turning you into a drow against your will.
Well, I mean, it all worked out.
God, this is Ticklevar's mentality.
Yeah, it was all fine.
It worked out.
It worked out just fine. Just don't worry about it. That's Ticklevar's voice. Don't worry. Hey, it's okay. Don't That's fine. Look, he only ran over my foot one time. The back tire missed it completely.
No, I picture him like using that voice and saying those things on a charred battlefield, like speaking to someone with no arms, right? As they're just moaning, the horrors of war. Oh, it's okay.
Look at both those feet you got there. No one's ever gonna conscript you into a conflict again. You ever think about that?
Look on the bright side. They asked you to do a thing and you did it. What higher purpose could there be?
God, Ticklevar is awful.
It's so Ticklevar and Balthazar are very like different visions of what horrible is.
Yeah, they really are. They're really on two sides of the same nightmare coin.
It's the horseshoe theory of horrificness.
God. Oh crap. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I killed them. So you've killed Kangaxx, right?
Correct. Yeah. So there are a couple little things we're gonna do back in Athkatla. And the first thing we wanted to do is that there's kind of this multi-part quest that you can discover it one of a few ways. You can discover it by like picking up a limb, like an old like skeletal or lich limb, and saying, "Oh, what's the deal with that?" And you can kind of read the description. It's a little weird. Or in the Bridge District, you can find a tomb, right? Mm-hmm. And the when you talk to the sarcophagus, what is? It's been a while. So what does the sarcophagus say when you chat it up?
It's like you open the sarcophagus and there is a glowing head in the sarcophagus, and it says, "Hello, chap. Would you like to win a nickel?" No, it says, "Go find my torso and go find my arms and legs, so I can whip a million asses." My name is Kangaxx, and I'm a lich, and people I was so badass down through time that people ripped my body apart and stored it in different places. But those places weren't that far away from each other.
No, basically all in Athkatla, right?
Yeah, all of them are in Athkatla, and they're maybe like 4 minutes away from each other.
Yeah.
in real time. Mm-hmm. So you got to go collect those two things, and you bring them back. And as we all know, liches are dead magical users who have used their eldritch powers in order to artificially expand their lifetime, which means that they're definitely good. Like, liches are only good entities, and there's nothing bad about them.
Yes. Irony aside, though, are there not... There's got to be some fictional example of, like, I've got to do this good thing, so I'm going to, like, do an evil thing, which is, like, lichdom, in order to, like, be able to do a good thing forever, right? That's got to be a thing that has happened before.
Yeah, I think there are good liches, for sure. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I think I guess the thing that makes a lich, right, is the phylactery.
Sure.
But I'm not sure the real difference between a lich and, like, Elminster. Right. So just someone who artificially expands their lifetime or extends their lifespan to just do whatever the hell they want to do.
Because ostensibly Elminster could live forever if he wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. Without resorting to lichdom.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, in the world of ethics of extending your life, lich doesn't have to be bad.
I guess it depends on perhaps the arcane rituals involved with lichdom, right? What if there's some ethical lines that are crossed in order to make a phylactery, right?
All right, we've done a little bit of research here to fully determine the existence of the lich. So this is what the first edition D&D monster manual says about a lich, and the art is wicked rad. It says, a lich exists because of its own desires and the use of powerful and arcane magic. The lich passes from a state of humanity to a non-human, non-living existence through force of will, not the magic card. It retains the status by certain conjurations, enchantments, and a phylactery. And then it kind of tells you where you might find one. They were formerly ultra-powerful magic users or magic user/clerics of not less than 18th level of magic use. Kind of tells you about the attacks they have. Description: a lich appears very much like a wight or a mummy, being of skeletal form, eye sockets with black holes with glowing points of light, and garments most often rotting. So yeah, there's nothing about like the ethics, and in fact, alignment says neutral evil.
Interesting. So the SRD, so the 3.5 or 3 third edition Dungeons and Dragons, has a little bit about liches and phylacteries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So same stuff. A lich is an undead spellcaster, usually a wizard or sorcerer, but sometimes a cleric who has used its magical powers to unnaturally extend its life. Now, a lich's phylactery, an integral part of becoming a lich is creating a magic phylactery, where the character will store its life force. As a rule, the only way to get rid of a lich for sure is to destroy the phylactery, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't, it appears 1d10 days after its apparent death. Here its phylactery. Each lich must make its own phylactery, which requires the craft wondrous item feat. The character must be able to cast spells and have a caster level of 11th or higher. The phylactery costs 120,000 gold and 4,800 experience, and have a caster level equal to that of its creator at the time of the creation. It's usually like a small metal box containing strips of parchment. The box is tiny and it has 40 hit points, hardness 20, and a break DC of 40. This is like, by the way, like this description, if you hate on 4th edition, I'm sorry to like this for this diversion because of its gaminess. I've got news for you. But yeah, this description of a phylactery has no like description of like the ritual, like any of the fluff. It is just, no, it costs this much experience, and like the final result is 40 hit points, hardness 20, and a break DC of 40.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like liches here, if they are evil, or if they are considered bad, or if they are generally bad, it seems like that is only because they are quote-unquote unnaturally extending their lifespan.
This is what happens when you normalize druidic, morals.
It really is. This is what happens when you let the druids run the world.
Yeah, it really is. This is the Steinian nightmare we're living under.
If a tree could live forever, a druid would think that would be fine. But you get one humanoid who just wants to put all of their life force into a metal box, and the druids can't let it go.
I feel like there's like a Dark Knight meme of like Joker say, one tree wants to live forever and everyone's fine. One man wants to live forever and everyone loses their minds, right? I do think that it's interesting that this description also says Lich Characters, the process of becoming a Lich is unspeakably evil and can only be undertaken by a willing character. Meanwhile, the process of becoming a Lich is fully outlined in the Lich's Phylactery section and mentions nothing evil other than paying like an absurd amount of money and experience and having the craft wondrous item feat.
I do love the idea of like an incredibly old dwarf who's just like banging on a little box and like tinking away, and he's like, hey, I guess I get to live forever now. And the adventurers roll up into his house and they're like, oh my god, you piece of garbage, how dare you must be unspeakably evil,
fiend.
He's like, I've got grandkids, I just want to see them grow up.
I just made this box, it's got 40 hit points, it's got a break DC of 40. I'm just a craftsman.
Don't hit it. I spent a lot of money on it.
Dear Lord. Anyway, in order to get these pieces of Kangaxx, do you have to kill other liches? I think you do.
Well, so yeah, there's like these weird reflections of Kangaxx. So there's a tomb underneath the basically in the same area as the Cult of the Unseen Eye.
Correct.
That's one. There's one in the not in the Bridge District, in the in the Bridge District. That's the second one. And then where Kangaxx actually is in the docks. Mm-hmm. He's in the dock, and they're just kind of like there.
Well, I think so. When I read the dialogue, the thing I got is the people that broke Kangaxx up, right? Like whatever, kind of almost like it's a very Tal Rasha plot point here. Before the Tal Rasha plot point, right? From Diablo 2.
Okay.
Like an order of mages that have been tasked with ensuring that a bad thing doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. But there were these mages that wanted to make sure that Kangaxx did not get put together. And the way I interpreted the dialogue is that in order to make sure that Kangaxx did not get put back together, they themselves became liches and guarded over his individual pieces separately.
So that's what you think those... Yeah, so it's like it was like two liches with slightly different move sets, basically, who showed up there. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, they're unspeakably evil.
The moment they decided to become liches, they became unspeakably evil.
Yep, sorry for them. But, God. So I go and get the torso, I go and get the legs and the arms, I give them to Kangaxx. Kangaxx rolls out of his tomb and he says, "Hey, you remember all those things I promised you for helping me?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "You should stick them in your butt."
Oh no!
Get owned, nerd.
Did he just kind of whisper at you? Look, I hear you may have become acquainted with this phenomena called, and then he whispers in your ear, betrayal.
Yeah, and I gasp so hard that my lungs invert, and Chicklebard dies a floppy death.
Yeah.
So he rolls out, and I have... It took me a little bit of trial and error to get through this Kangaxx, but I was doing it fairly regularly. But what happens when you get Kangaxx down to 0 hit points is that he becomes a demi-lich.
Now tell us what a demi-lich is.
I don't know, it's just like a floating skull who
So
kills my whole party.
So it's a lich that has transcended the need to even have like a physical form.
Great.
It's like my understanding of it. Like
That's what they needed. Was not a physical form.
Sure.
Yeah. So he just becomes like a floating head who starts like hyper-mazing my party, meaning that he shoots a bolt of green energy out of his mouth, and it hits one of my party members, and they disappear from the game.
Well, they
just don't exist
They disappear
anymore.
from the game. They're still around. They're just lost in what was the level of the abyss with that Minotaur. It's the maze.
Yeah, the maze.
Whichever layer of the abyss.
Or
that
like
is.
the labyrinth, whatever. But yeah, we did look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just... But here's the thing. I'm pretty sure he's casting Imprison, which is worse. Because it's not maze, because maze would mean they like go to the maze and then they can like wander around and they come back. Like that's a predictable thing in the realm of like level 15 adventurers.
Sure.
What Kangaxx is doing is putting them in a cage on a plane of the abyss where they hang forever.
Dear Lord.
Like free floating over the great nothing. Yeah, it's the worst thing that could happen. And so that happened to my party like 3 times, and I just gave up. But oh well.
So
Not a huge loss.
Kangaxx was not a victory here.
Not a victory. A give up, and we'll never return.
Yeah, the only way I was able to do it is by running out of the room. Or like to the edge of the room. And I was finally able to like get far enough away, I think, so that he didn't nuke me when he time stopped. Like just living through time stop is the number one thing. After that, I was able to kill him, I think. I just needed to get like lucky rolls on the saves for imprisons, which when you're very high level is not undoable, right?
Yeah.
Because barbarians get like after level 20 or after level 16 or some level, they just get a cumulative plus 1% resist magic every level.
They also, if what I was reading was correct, they also are just immune to imprison when they are berserk.
That's true. Yeah. You can't hold me.
You literally can't. Nothing can.
No. There's very few like crowd control abilities that work while berserk.
Yeah, but this is a bolt of green energy that shoots you into another dimension. You would think it would work.
Well, look, the Hulk got so angry he could just hold his breath and kick off of a planet and like go from galaxy to galaxy, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Through anger, anything is possible.
That's true. Hard to argue with pure logic. Mm-hmm. I also did the Twisted Rune.
So what's the lore behind the Twisted Rune?
I don't know. Do you know?
No.
I have no idea. I could not figure it out at all. So it's like this, and I never would have looked for it if you hadn't asked me about it.
Sure.
But it's like this nondescript door. It's actually right next door to the Kangaxx place in the district.
The Bridge
enough.
District is just the home to all the weirdest stuff in Alcala.
It really is. Where they like could not figure out where else to put it in the game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I walk through a door, and I have a rogue stone in my pocket. I know I need that, and then it's like the rogue stone in your pocket begins to vibrate, and you flip out, bro. And then I like dimension door into a spaceship. What appears to be a spaceship. It is weird and futuristic looking. It's
okay.
Metal walls. It's got like a weird metal door. It has a stairwell that goes out but doesn't go anywhere. It's very strange. Then there is an adjoining room that looks like the Sinister Six meet there. They hang out there and they figure out how to kill Spider-Man.
Just supervillain headquarters here.
Yeah, it's like a table with a pentagram on it. It's some real shit. And I walk in there, and it lights up. Like there's candles on it, and the candles all they all light up. And a dude appears in the middle. He like just appears in the middle of the table, and he was like, "How the hell did you get in here?" And I was like, "I just walked through this door, buddy. I don't even know where I am." And he was like, "Well, you're not leaving either, nerd." And then he summons in a bunch of his buddies, his evil ass like adventuring party. This is an interplanar evil adventuring party.
You've always been a fan of like the inverted adventuring party in this game, I think.
It's cool. Mm-hmm. It's a cool idea. I'm all about it. Mm-hmm. Can't be mad about it. So, and this one's like a really robust one. It's got like 7 people in it. So there's like a couple mages. There's a lich, like a straight up lich. There's a vampire who's just in there. There's like a thief, and you know that thief does not feel cool already. No. Right? Like based on all the people he's hanging out with. There's like a warrior, or at least someone who's like wielding a 2-handed sword, like full plate mail. Mm-hmm. And then there's a beholder who's just their buddy. And so they all come in and they annihilate me. So I reload the game. I summon 5 Mordecaian swords. I give them all haste. I open the door. I go in there. I spread them out before I get close to the table. So I do the fight a couple times. It's actually very close. And what ends up killing me the couple times I tried it was a mage who time stopped me.
Yeah.
And I just could not get over the time stop or like power my way through it. But I do think I succeeded. So you can't leave this area once you get there until you win the encounter. Mm-hmm. Right? You're kind of trapped there until.
Yeah, you're gated. I think you need like loot in order to leave, right?
Yes. So here's the thing. On the right side of the room, there is like a cauldron of blood. Mm-hmm. And in the cauldron of blood, when you click on it, it's like, give me a beholder's eye stalk. That's not what it says. It's got like a little poem or something, but that's what it means. And there's another machine in the north part of the room, the top part of the room, that basically has to be activated by that part. So the idea is you have to kill the beholder to get the eye stalk, to put it in the cauldron, to activate the machine to leave. So half of my party was in the left side of the room, far away, in the little room where I came in to this zone. Mm-hmm. And the other half of my party was on the right side. So all the enemies that I don't kill, I kill the beholder, I kill a couple of the mages, I kill like the lich, all those. Everyone I don't kill is in this little side room. And eventually, they're all fighting in that room, and I get all of my surviving party members to the far right of the room, and they just don't see each other anymore. So they stop attacking me.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm like one party member down, but I have the Beholder's Eye Stalk, and I have 5 of my 6 party members alive. So I just put the Eye Stalk in the thing and then left.
Damn.
So I call that a win.
Did you kill any of the members of the Twisted Rune?
Yeah, I did. I killed about half of them.
That's like just the idea of the evil adventuring party. Like, if they are a play group, if you're 7 players, like, that thief is never talking at the table.
No.
Like, there's just not enough time, right? But the idea of, like, well, several, imagine the GM running that. Adventurers come into your lair. They slay 3 of you. They, like, walk around a corner, and then they disappear.
And they're gone. And then you gotta, like, go get revenge on them.
That's
So
the
I,
whole
like-
campaign.
So I, like, healed up, and I was like, I'll go back and kill them. Right. And especially because it'll be easier, because there's fewer of them. So I teleported back there, back to that little entry room, and they were gone. And they didn't spawn back in again, so I didn't have the opportunity to kill
You
them.
truly defeated them.
I defeated them, yeah. They're gone forever.
Well, good job.
Yeah, so that's how I did with the Twisted Rune.
Can I tell you about my stronghold?
I want you to tell me about your stronghold.
Yeah, I'm a landlord.
Part of the
Just-
rentier class at last.
Yeah. There are 8 tasks. There are 8 quests in this chain.
Can you say really quickly before, how did you get your stronghold?
This stronghold, way, 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 way back. Diarne's Keep, I liberated it from a bunch of trolls. Nalia, kind of a privileged but in tune with the peasant class person who was the the daughter of Lord, Diarne's, told me about it, and I went there, and he's dead. She was betrothed to someone she doesn't want to marry, some other lord or duke or what have you, and she was like, hey, if you become my guardian, you take over the keep, and so he won't get it by getting married to me. And I said, sure. So that is how I got the keep.
Okay.
So the tasks, I'll give you the highlights here. There are like a couple categories of tasks. The first category of task is someone in your jurisdiction has a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So like the Angry Merchant is an example of this, where the Angry Merchant is like, hey, I was on your roads. They're your roads because you're the lord around here, and I was beset by bandits, right? I want
seems like your
compensation.
problem.
Yeah, you weren't providing security. Balthazar has more money than he can count. He is illiterate. Right? So I don't know how high he can count to. It is not as high as the amount of gold pieces he has. Mm-hmm. And all of the requests in this quest chain are no more than like a couple thousand gold.
So you're subsidizing
100%, right?
all of it.
And I'm like, sure, how much money? Oh, 200 gold? Yes. You realize every like 5 days I collect 3,000, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's like the kind where, somebody did something wrong, so like a guard was stealing silverware. And you have the opportunity to like execute him. You can kick him out of the guard. You can also ask him, hey, why were you doing this? And he's like, oh, my wife's sick and the traditional medicine's not working, and like I need like 500 gold to cure. And I was like, here's 500 gold. And then they're like, oh, what do you want to do? And I was like, oh, you can still be a guard, just like don't do that again.
Just stop stealing.
Please stop. Just come to me.
first.
Yeah, literally, that is what I said. Yeah, come to me. I had like a situation where an unpopular priest of Tempest came and was like, "Hey, can I set up a chapel here?" Mm-hmm. And I said, "Sure." And there was no follow up on that whatsoever.
Doesn't that just mean that he's gonna like beat the hell out of people?
Maybe there was no consequences for it.
Well, maybe there's not. There's not consequences for everything.
That's right. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing at all, and sometimes anything is fine.
Yeah. It's one of those two things.
It's either
always.
Until Dawn or Assassin's Creed.
Every time.
Every time. Then eventually I find out that Lord Rowanall, the person who was betrothed to Nalia, he comes and he's like, "Look, I don't care about you, but this place is mine. Like, I got engaged to this woman, and it's mine." And I said, "Hey, buddy, I might be illiterate, but it sure does sound like you're trying to tell me what to do right now." And so
Sadly, the Rowanall estate is not its own map in this game where you can go and
just
mercilessly
murder
slaughter.
every single person there. No, because that would have definitely happened. So he just storms away. There are some natural disasters that happen, like a flood. And I'm like, how much money will it take to literally make everything right and fix the levees? And they're like 5,000. I'm like, sure, do that twice. Like, build a redundant set of levees beyond the set of levees, sure. And it's also in a very strange situation, apparently, because I am Lord of the Keep. All of the servants who were serving under Lord Diarnice have to get my permission in order to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the maids was like, "Hey, these two suitors are trying to marry me, and I've got to get your permission." And one's like a rich jerk, and the other is a poor, nice person. Mm-hmm. And so I tell her, "Marry the poor person. I'll give you money." So I just gave them like 500 gold. And that
That's rad.
Sets them forever. Yeah.
This is a sweet place to live.
It is. No, it's the best place ever. And then finally, Lord Rowanall invades. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they've overwhelmed our local guard. And I'm like, let me just go outside. I'll fix this. So I go outside, and there are like 7 people. And Lord Rowanall, like, right in the front. And they told me earlier, boy, if you get Lord Rowanall, everyone else will scatter. And I just roll up to Lord Rowanall and I melt him like a popsicle, like in the middle of June, right? And so cutscene, we're like, oh, we're all fine, and that's the end. That's the end of the Keep quest.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a happy ending.
No, it is. It was great.
Oh, the Planar Sphere does not have a happy ending.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I thought it was going to be way more interesting than the Keep
isn't.
because
No, it is not even remotely interesting.
Okay.
Which is a bummer. Right? Because the Planar Sphere, if you remember all those episodes ago, it was floating around the planes for a long time. Came back to Athkatla. We had to go inside of it.
It's an intraplanar SUV, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get your kids in there, and a TV, and a dog.
And some, like, cannibalistic halflings.
Well, I killed all of them, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. But some Knights of Miscellaneous. So, yeah, I go into the Planar Sphere, and this dude named Teos is in there, and he's like, listen, I'm with the Cowled Wizards. I'm here to tell you what to do. And Ticklevar said, awesome. What's going on here, buddy? And he said, well, look, even if you don't want to work with me, it doesn't really matter because this is coming from so high up in magic-using world that you just got to go along with the flow. And none of this makes sense to me at all since I have annihilated all the Cowled Wizards that exist in the world, right? Because of the asylum and all that stuff. But I say, whatever, that's fine. And so he says, all right, well, the first thing that the Cowled Wizards want you to do with this Planar Sphere is train some apprentices. So I have 3 apprentices, Moral, Lars, and Nair. And basically they're like, we would like to do things to learn how to be wizards. And so I say, okay, make a ring of protection. They give me some options. They're like, we can make an easy thing, a medium thing, or a hard thing. And a ring of protection is apparently the bog standard, like, first wizard thing you make.
Sure.
And so I said, okay, make that. Lars died making...
How do you die?
I don't know. It was not very instructive.
Okay.
So I say, all right, well, Moral comes to me and he says, well, now we want to try to make, we can either make a scroll, or you can make a slightly better scroll or an even better scroll. And I said, well, just make the middle one. And they come back to me, Moral and Nair, the 2 surviving members, and they say, well, we couldn't do it. And I was like, all right, fine. You're terrible. You're not going to graduate. And then they come back. And
but
they say,
you don't want to tell them now because they'll stop paying their tuition. You want to get to the end of the semester.
Exactly. So they say, for our final exam, what do you want us to do? And they're like, we can make you a robe We can make you like a staff, or we can make you a ring of wizardry that will like allow you to memorize more spells. And I was like, make me that damn ring. Give me that thing. And Moral survived that. Nair did not. Which is
Nair died?
Yeah. And so Moral
66% of the class is dead at this point.
And then Moral hands over the ring and he says, well, I mean, I hope you enjoy this ring. It only took, 5,000 gold and 2 lives to make it. He's real sassy about it. When he's the one who's suggesting these things to me, I didn't come out of nowhere. I didn't come up with the idea of the ring of wizardry, right? I'm not trying to get him to make those things. He's asking me if I want him to. But so there is a graduation ceremony where a speaker comes named William Bill Williamson. And it's just a weird joke that I don't get. I do love that he is a cowled wizard named William Bill Williamson. And his character model is like the merchant. Like kind of bigger merchant guy.
He's the ruddy, like elven arse person?
Yes, elven arse guy. He does not look like a cowled wizard at all, which I think is really... So he's just like a dude. And he comes in and he's like, hey, you know what? Sometimes your whole class dies. That's okay. And so they just go away. Like, Moral flies off. Chios comes back. And he says, listen, you know those Knights of Solamnia? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you gotta get rid of them. You can just kill them if you want to, but we gotta get them out of here. They can't be living in the Planar Sphere. And he says, there's a couple options. You could go to the Order of the Radiant Heart, and you can ask them if the Knights of Solamnia can come into their order, or you can go to the Adventurer's Mart and talk to that guy and see if he'll teleport them home. And so I went to that guy and I was like, will you take these people home? And he's like, yes, it costs 9,000 gold. And I am also richer than God. And I was like, all right, fine. Dumped out like 1,000,000 quarters out of my pocket.
Okay.
And the mage showed up and just teleported them home. Like with no additional lore, fanfare, nothing. They just go. And then, this is the kind of one interesting piece, I think. This dude named Sergeant Natula comes up to me, and he's like, you've got to go back to the Planar Sphere right now. Tios is there. He needs to talk to you.
Okay.
So I go in, and then Tios teleports in, and he says, okay, well, what did you want?
Ooh.
And I was like, well, what are you talking about? And he was like, what are you talking about? And then the sergeant and like 9 people teleport in. And they're like, we're coming to kill you. And he yells, for the glory of Argrim, which is really weird. And he starts attacking me, and they're like terribly, terribly way below level.
Okay.
For me, so I just destroy them. I mean, I think Ticklevar is killing them with his staff, like melee attacks. So it's not a thing. But you find out, and this is the I think, a really interesting thing. Tios tells me that there are factions within the Cowled Wizards that think that the Cowled Wizards let too much magic happen already. And you remember, like, the Cowled Wizards don't like any public magic happen in Athkatla. Like, none. Right?
Yeah.
So there are very conservative magic fundamentalists who think that even that is too much. Like, behind closed doors magic is too much.
Sure.
And so this Sergeant Natula and this Argrim guy are from that Splinter faction, the more conservative, like, anti-magic faction in the Cowled Wizards, who are making a bid to kill Chios and to kill his masters and to take over the Planar Sphere to kind of push their agenda.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Chios gives me a rune that is built just for Argrim, and he's like, yeah, just go and cast this rune at him. It's like a physical little object, and it will trap him. It will make him disappear, because killing him would turn him into a martyr for his cause, right? And obviously you can't let him win. Because
it's basically a scroll that's like disappear forever.
Yes. But like, put him in the abyss forever. As long as, this little magical artifact exists. It's just a real bummer. So
That's a real bummer. I think this quest chain sounds like the most interesting of any of these.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, by quest chain, it is taking me longer to explain it to you than it took to do it.
Uh,
Right. So I go to the bridge district, or not the bridge district, the city gate district. I'm sorry. And then there's one inn there. I go to the inn. I go upstairs. He's there. I click on the rune, and the quest is over. And there's no fanfare to it at all. I go back, and Chio says, "Well, thanks for doing that. Now this Planar Sphere is yours." And he teleports away, and there's nothing else. Yeah. So
Yeah, it was similar. The only effect that my decisions had, it may be that when you do everything right, there aren't problems, but yeah, I don't think that there's any real impact other than in terms of how you treat your, the landed peasantry or what have you. Other than you can ask, hey, how are things going in the kingdom? And the major domo's response is always, oh, they're great. The peasants are really happy with you. They like you even more than Lord Diarnis. Right? And it seems like the only thing that changes if you're a jerk is that description would change, but otherwise nothing else would.
yeah, I think that I don't know why I believe this, but I believe that when I played it years and years ago, you can do stuff to make the peasants revolt. I think you can make life really bad for them to where the Rowanals will be coming to rescue. Right, rather than take over the thing,
maybe the Rowanals, that adventuring party will be more substantial because they will be joined by peasants. Maybe,
I don't know. No, I think maybe just the logic of why they're there changes.
Ah,
You can probably demolish them just as easily.
yeah.
Well, that was this episode.
That was this episode. We did a lot of miscellaneous stuff. I hope you enjoyed it.
We don't have a lot left in this game.
Well, we're going to Sundale Sinar next episode. Episode 36.
We're going to do that. We probably have 2 episodes of Baldur's Gate 2 left.
So we'll throw in there might be a Watcher's Keep episode.
We'll see.
We'll see how that feels out. And I do think we'll have our wind up episode. We kind of made that a tradition.
And maybe an interview or something in the middle.
There might be an interview. Yeah.
We'll see. I bet there'll be one. Oh boy. Getting close.
Getting close. Please like this video if you got to the end of it. I think it's a rule. It might not be ethical to get to the end of this video and not like it.
It should be illegal. We should legislate against it. You should follow us on Facebook, Twitter. You should subscribe to the channel if you haven't already by the end of this. And tune in 2 weeks for the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Goodbye.
Ciao.
Orlando.